Hi, Avi. The stage is yours, I would say.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Data World. My name is Avigdor Gal, and I'm a professor of data science at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology. So I guess by now you are relaxed, knowing that Celonis take care of your processes and other big-name companies attend to other aspects of your organization. Well, I wouldn't be too relaxed, and not because of your processes. They are fine. But what about your data? What's wrong with your data? Some people claim that your well-established information systems that contain the data that you have collected for many years in order to make sure that your organization runs smoothly is not all that perfect. So have you ever thought, where does your data really come from? So let's start with an illustration from the restaurant domain. And what we see here is a restaurant kitchen being monitored by a camera for the purpose of quality control. In this specific case, we have the chef preparing a salad dish for us. And in this salad dish, we slice the tomatoes, then we cut the cheese, we add some lettuce to it, and so on and so forth. There is an AI system in the background that monitors the activities in the camera and decides at each point in time what is really going on in this system. So we won't stay for the whole show here. But what do we really want from our AI system? So we want it to represent accurately what is going on in the real world. For example, if what you see here are tomatoes being sliced, we want to see that the AI system recognizes that as cutting tomatoes. Sometimes we get a little bit confused. Are we done with the tomato slicing? Have we started to cut the cheese? And the system catches on to our confusion and actually looks at that and say, well, I'm not really sure between the two. And sometimes we get so mad that we really want to throw this AI system out the window. In this case, for example, when it's clear that the cucumber is still on the side, but the system decided that we are slicing cucumbers now. So at this point, you might say, oh, in that case, it's irrelevant to me because I don't use AI. Well, think again. AI is penetrating each and every part of our lives, and soon enough, AI will generate enough data to be inserted into your information systems. So what do I do? How can I handle and can I be certain about my data? So don't worry, your data, as well as your competitors, can still be used. But there is a need for a change of state of mind, because your data is now stochastic rather than deterministic. And that means that you cannot be certain about your data. So Voltaire said that doubt is not a pleasant condition, but certainty is absurd, and we should adopt this philosophy. And therefore, I'm introducing to you the stochastic log. What is the stochastic log? Well, to start with, it's a log, which means that it has all the relevant parts of the who, the what, and when, and other perspectives that are needed to run our processes. But it also introduces a world of possibilities rather than a single reality. To understand that, here is a small example. What we have here is a really small log. It has 3 entries. Each one of them has uncertainty in the activity. For example, the first record cannot really decide between A and B. The second one has 3 options, and the third one has 2 options. This creates a multiverse of different options. So we use a formal model, PetriNet, which is a little bit like BPMN, where we represent this uncertainty. And given that we already have 2 options for the first record, 3 for the second, and 2 for the third, we wind up with 12 different possible worlds. Each one of these possible worlds is a possible alternative reality for your organization. Okay, so you might ask yourself, so I have all these stochastic elements in the log. What do I actually do with it? So to start with, you can actually turn it back into a deterministic log. And that's the log that your systems know how to work with. But now that you have probabilities, you will know how to make it so that it will look very much like in the real world. If 1 log is not enough, choose, say, 5 of them. Compare them and understand where the uncertainty really lies in your organization. Keep in mind that different downstream applications may have different needs, and therefore, you may need to generate different deterministic logs from them. Also, now that you understand the reasons for uncertainty, you can invest your resources and try to identify or improve on your data, keeping in mind that some uncertainty can just be kept in your system without causing any damages. Finally, you can embrace uncertainty in its full power and started working on expected outcomes and expected processes. You may feel at this point that your organization is not yet ready for the stochastic logs, and you're probably right. But worry not, because we in academia already started working on that with companies like Celonis, and by the time you will really need it, we are sure that we're going to have all the right tools for you to use. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Avi, and come have a sit with us. Thank you very much. So, stochastic event log, that's like a completely new idea of how we look at the data. Now, I can imagine we have a couple of people here in the audience that have their data somewhere in ERP systems or CRM systems, and they might even enter it manually. So they can be like, well, I'm quite sure what happened there. I know what happened there. There's no probability in my data. Do you have a few use cases where we might experience something like a stochastic event log?
So as I've mentioned before, we do have these AI systems that get into the game now, and they're going to generate data that is not necessarily certain. But there are interesting usages for these AI systems. For example, take the restaurants. Imagine that you can actually monitor the advance of preparing a dish. Mm-hmm. And if it turns out that the dish is delayed, you actually can go to the customers and offer some compensation even before they get hangry, which is hungry and angry together.
Yeah, I like that. And I think in general, like thinking about where the data comes from and that there's more and more automatic resources that might be generating your logs for you. And there you definitely have that. If you have some sort of like videos and event log generated from that, that's exactly where you will experience that.
Right.
Now, before we introduce our next speaker, I actually have one question for the two of you. We heard about object-centric process mining, which already sounds like a little complex because we have multicolored spaghetti now. We heard that our event log now isn't even certain. So when does this get too complicated? When do we not know, like when is it too complex for us to look at these things? Or is this complexity good?
Yeah, so if I can kick off, I think one should separate between the object-centric thing and the stochastic thing. I think like if you look at the object-centric data that we are using, it is very close actually to the data that is in the system. So it is not more complicated, but people have been trying to oversimplify it and thereby complicating it. So I'm completely convinced that that is not, let's say, confusing. If you look at stochastics, I think stochastic process models where you add probabilities, I think are very important also for making predictions, etc. The difficulty will be that the moment that the events become uncertain, that is although Avi is completely right, we will be dealing with situations where things are uncertain, but that will be harder to swallow by people, because if you say, yeah, this event may have happened, that's kind of difficult to accept. While in the classical applications of process mining, we always assume that the data reflects reality and it is the way that it is.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
So,
anything to add?
Yeah. So the world is a complex place, right? And for many years, we used to invent new technologies and then being able to simplify it. Think of electricity. Electricity at the beginning was a very dangerous concept to keep in a house. Now we have it behind walls, covered, and all we need to know is how to plug things in. And that's exactly what's going to happen with these new complexities that we have.
Thank you. No, that I think I'm already a little enlightened.